Welcome back to the Global Local Top Tips, and today chicken liver pate. You can't get any more classical than this. Chicken liver pate, a Cumberland sauce and Melba toast. What more do you need? Let's get stuck in. So to get started with our chicken liver pate, we need equal amounts of liver to butter. It's a very, very rich dish. That's why it's so classical. So I'm going to use 1 kilo of chicken liver to 1 kilo of butter. With the chicken liver, so important that they're nice and fresh, meaning that they shouldn't be slimy and there shouldn't be any green little tint to them. They should have a really bright color. With the chicken liver, you can either ask your butcher to trim them up for you, or if you buy them in the supermarket, there might be a little bit of fat on them. So just make sure you get any little fat or vein out of them. Otherwise your pate can become stringy and bitter. The first time I made chicken liver pate, I was in uni and I was out the night before. So when I landed in, my tutor had it in for me. He made me make 40 litres of chicken liver pate at 9 o'clock in the morning. And not only did I make it, he made me taste 2 massive big spoonfuls of it before it was cooked. I learnt my lesson. So let's get it started. So I've got my chicken liver pate here and I've trimmed up any little bits of fat in it, and I'm just going to put it into my container here because it's really nice having a big plastic container for this one. Now you can use the food processor or you can use the stick blender. It's completely up to you. To my kilo of chicken liver pate, I'm going to add 2 big teaspoons of crushed garlic, salt, pepper. So I've melted a kilo of butter and it's completely melted, and I've let it sit because I only want to add in the butter and not the cream sitting at the bottom. It's also important that the butter's at around 40 degrees. Too hot and you'll split the liver. Too cold and it'll split also, almost like making a mayonnaise. So the best way to figure it out is about the body temperature. So with my stick blender, I'm just going to puree it all up. Once I've pureed the liver and the garlic up, now I can transfer it into a bowl so it's easier to use. Now we're going to slowly add in the butter, making sure just to do it a little bit at a time so the liver has a chance to incorporate it all in there. To that, I'm going to add 200 mils of Madeira wine. Now, if you can't get your hands on Madeira wine, that's perfectly fine. You cannot use port. Now, with the 200 mils of Madeira wine or port, put it in a pot and reduce it by half and let it cool for about 10 or 15 minutes. Then add it. It's so important that you reduce that port or Madeira wine by half. If you don't, you get such a bitter taste from that alcohol in there. It's really, really important. So now our pate is made. So we're going to cook it. I've got my usual baking tin here, or bread tin. And what I want to do, spray it with a little bit of spray oil. And then with some Glad wrap or cling wrap, just want to push it down into it, and I want to gently just turn it around, making sure there's loads of Glad wrap to overlap it. I want to go another one, big sheet over the top of it, and cut it down, and then just push it down into it. This will make it so much easier to actually get the pate out of the tin when it's cooked. So, I've got my pate. So now we're just gonna fill it up. I'm just giving it a little bit of room just at the top. It won't rise by any means. You just want to give it a little bit of space. Folding it in so it's completely covered. And so that none of it can seep out. Now, we're going to cook it in a bain-marie. So I've got a tray of water here, cold water, and I'm just going to sit it just inside. So don't completely fill it up to the top, half fill your tray, put it into the oven, and then just top it up to the top of the tray. We're going to cook it at 170 Celsius for 40 minutes. Now to go with our pate, while it's cooking, let's get our Melba toast. And this is really, really good because you can actually use leftover toast from morning time. But if you don't, let's get it done here. So what we're going to do, just going to cut the crusts off some bread, and if it's day-old bread, it's all the better. Just onto a dry tray. There's no need for oils or butters or anything on this. It'll actually make it easier if you don't put anything on it. Just neatly around into the oven for 3 or 4 minutes at 180. Now, while we're waiting for our pate and our Melba toast, let's get our Cumberland sauce. So now, red currant jelly, I've got 150 grams. And it goes straight into the pot. Now, if you can't get your hands on red currant jelly, you could use cranberry. It's all very, very similar. To that, 1 teaspoon of mustard powder, 1 teaspoon of celery salt. I've got 1 orange here, and what I want to do is I just want to zest it. I don't want to go too deep. And what this does is add immense amounts of flavour, of course, but it also looks really, really good. Beautiful. And the same with the lemon. Add in 200 ml of Madeira wine, and of course, again, if you can't get Madeira, just use a nice port straight in. Now, on a low simmer for about a minute, minute and a half, just to let that alcohol reduce down and evaporate until it get a nice sauce consistency. Now, my toast has had about 2 or 3 minutes in the oven, and what we want to do is just nice and gently, just as so careful with your fingers, just going to run the knife through the middle of them, just like that. Try not to squish it down. And these are awesome because not only can you use toast that you've left over from the morning time, but in an airtight container will last for weeks. So any time that you want to take your pate out of the fridge, you've got little fresh crackers. So now that they're cut in half, I'm going to cut them into half again there. Back onto our tray. And the beautiful thing about these is that they'll curl up on the sides in that traditional shape. It's quite sad that this was once a common practice in every restaurant, but because it can be a little bit time consuming, it's kind of falling away, and a lot of restaurants are just buying in crackers, which is such a shame to lose that tradition. Just arrange them so they all see the light of day. Beautiful. In the oven, 2-3 minutes, and make sure you keep an eye on it. So my Cumberland sauce is done. It's reduced down perfectly. And it smells amazing. Let it cool to room temperature, then put it away in the fridge, and it'll last as long as any jam. With our pate, there's so many things we can do with it. We can just cut it into slices and arrange it on a plate, Cumberland sauce, or Melba toast, and maybe even a little bit of salad leaf. Or we can mix it up, add a little bit of cream, and we can pipe it into ramekins or into florets on a plate. It's so adaptable. Another traditional method of preserving or keeping the pate was to put it into little pots and to pour some clarified butter over the top and into the fridge. Now the butter done two things. One, it sealed the pate so no air could get through to it. But two, when the butter was rancid, it meant the pate was also rancid. So rather than taking off the butter and tasting a spoonful of rancid pate, which is something that you'd never forget, you could smell the butter, know the butter was gone, and you knew not to touch the pate. So our pate has been cooking away for 40 minutes. I've taken it out of the heat and I've let it cool down completely for about 6 hours. Even better, bring it in overnight into the fridge. Now, how to set this up. So I've got my plate here, I've got my Cumberland, and I've got my Melba toast. And what we need here now is a very, very hot knife, as you would a cake. So run it under some boiling water, just dry it off, and let's cut into our pate. And in one smooth slice, and then draw the knife back up through it again, and just onto the plate. Now you can see that it's quite pink, and that's perfect. That's just the way we want it. A bit of Melba, and this Cumberland sauce it's got sweetness to it, but it's also got that little bit of spice. I'm just gonna put a little bit just on the top there, and then for a Melba toast. And this is such a traditional way to serve pate. And this is brilliant because if you're having people over, you can cook this well in advance. You can have it in the fridge, it'll last for ages, and then just slice it or pipe it when you need it. If you enjoy our videos and you'd like to support us in the future, please consider joining our Patreon group. There's some awesome extras, Q&A sessions, our upcoming cookbooks, and some unseen videos. Well, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please comment down below any videos you'd like to see in the future. Hit that like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon. And we'll see you soon.